Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that cuts through the clutter to bring you insights you can actually use. And today, well, we're tackling something really universal, I think. That feeling, the constant sense that you need to change or improve, become something more, or maybe just as strong sometimes is that urge to escape what you feel you are right now. But here's the twist we're exploring. What if that very drive, that constant becoming, is actually like the root cause of our unease?
It's a really deep question, isn't it? And it's something Anusara Bhikkhu explores brilliantly in his work, particularly the paradox of becoming. So our deep dive today is into this core idea from the Buddhist teachings. It's often glossed over, maybe, but it's absolutely key to understanding suffering and, crucially, how we might end it.
Yeah, it really feels foundational when you start looking at it. So today, we're going to, dig into what becoming really means. How does it drive us, often unconsciously? And why does this perspective say it's always, inevitably, stressful? Then we'll look at the path, this sort of surprising strategic way to actually get beyond it. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to grasping a really profound piece of Eastern philosophy that has, well, huge implications for your daily life, for how you see yourself and your purpose.
Okay, so let's start there. What is this becoming? The Pali word is bhava, and it's not just like static existence. It's much more active. It's this ongoing process, constantly happening, where you're forming a sense of identity, right? An identity within a specific world, a context. It's not being, it's always becoming. You're constantly shaping and reshaping who you think you are, the roles you inhabit, the world that forms around that identity.
Ah, okay. So less a noun, more a verb. In action, we're always performing. That clicks, actually, when you think of that inner narrator we all have. And you said this is tied directly into the Buddha's main teachings, the Four Noble Truths.
Directly, yeah. The second noble truth is really clear. Suffering and stress. They're caused by craving, specifically craving that leads to becoming. So logically, if you want suffering to end, well, becoming has to end too. But here's the paradox, the real kicker. One of the three kinds of craving that causes becoming is craving for non-becoming. The desire for things to just stop, for an identity or situation to cease existing.
Oh, hang on. So wanting to stop being something, wanting to end a state, that desire itself fuels more becoming.
Yeah.
And keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
That's the paradox right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like a loop. How do you get out if even wanting out keeps you in? That's the practical knot we need to untangle.
That's exactly it. And to get a handle on it, we need to see becoming working on like two levels at once. There's the psychological happening moment to moment in your mind. And then there's the cosmological view, which talks about lifetimes, different realms of existence. But the good news is you don't need to worry about cosmology to see this. You can observe your mind right now, shifting from one becoming, one identity, one world to the next. It's happening here and now.
Right. Okay. And the source material uses a really helpful analogy for this, doesn't it? The field analogy, to break down how this becoming process actually works.
Oh, yes, it's a powerful one. Think of kamma, your actions, past and present intentions, as the field or the soil. It creates the potential, the landscape for becoming. Old kamma is like the general terrain you find yourself in, and new kamma, your current intentions, actively shapes what grows right now in that field.
Okay, kamma is the field.
And the consciousness is the seed. It's the awareness that lands in that field that interacts with the possibilities created by kamma.
The seed, right.
And finally, craving is the moisture. It's essential. It's what allows that seed of consciousness to actually sprout in the soil of kamma. Craving selects a spot, a location to relish, as the texts put it, and around that focus, a whole state of becoming an identity, a world takes shape. Without that moisture, nothing grows.
That paints a really clear picture, and it really highlights why just swapping one identity for another, like, I don't know, quitting your stressful job as a lawyer to become a supposedly chill baker, it doesn't fix the underlying issue, does it? You're just trading one set of stresses, one type of becoming for another, because the process of becoming itself, relying on these shifting conditions, is inherently stressful.
Precisely. You're still operating within that same basic dynamic, and what makes it even more unstable, more stressful, is craving itself.
Yeah.
The Buddha pointed out how incredibly changeable it is. He said it's so fluidly changeable, the mind flipping back and forth so quickly, that he literally couldn't find a good enough analogy for it. Yeah. So that fickleness adds another layer of stress on top of the inherent instability of our actions, kamma, and our awareness, consciousness.
That's quite a thought, isn't it? How volatile our own desires are. It makes you think. Just how much do our internal states shape the reality we experience? And the Buddha used these amazing, almost mythic stories to illustrate this, didn't he? Not literal history, but like allegories for deep psychological truths, like the Brahma story.
Exactly. In that story, you have this being feeling incredibly lonely and agitated, just yearning for connection. And this intense desire, this craving, is depicted as actually causing other beings to appear. Then, maybe getting a bit carried away, this first being thinks, hey, I must have created them. They see themselves as Brahma, the creator. It's a powerful metaphor for how our own deep feelings, loneliness, desire, fear, can literally structure the world we perceive and our role within it, even across vast timescales.
And then there's the Flavor Earth story, too. That one feels even more symbolic, showing how personal cravings can seemingly change the physical universe itself, or our experience of it.
Right. It talks about beings who were originally like pure light, feeding on bliss. But then, out of sheer impulse, this wanton nature and craving, they start tasting the substance called flavor earth. As they get hooked on it, their inner light fades. And then the sun, moon, stars, day, night, all these features of our physical world appeal. And it goes further. They develop pride, color haughtiness, and that causes the flavor earth to vanish, leading to more struggle. It vividly shows how our internal states, our attachments and aversions profoundly shape our entire experienced reality.
Okay, so those stories really hammer home how powerful our inner world is in shaping our outer experience. But let's ground this again. How does becoming actually show up for us right now? The teachings talk about 3 levels of it and also 4 types of clinging that keep us locked in.
Yeah.
Let's start with those 3 levels.
Okay. First up is sensuality becoming kamma bhava. Now, this isn't just, enjoying a nice meal or something. It's the passion for sensual thoughts and desires themselves. It's being hooked on the wanting, the planning, the anticipating. It includes the brief pleasure when you get what you want, sure, but also all the frustration and disappointment when you don't. It's an identity built around chasing sensory gratification.
So it's like being defined by the pursuit itself.
Yeah.
Always needing the next hit, the next experience, the next purchase, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. The second level is form becoming, rupa bhava. This is subtler. It's about becoming attached to experiences based on form, often internal forms. Think of the deep, calm, or pleasant physical sensations you might feel in meditation, in states called jhāna. These are refined states, definitely, but clinging to them, identifying with being a good meditator or someone who can access these states, is still a form of becoming. It's still impermanent, needs effort, and can be lost.
Ah, right. Even pleasant, refined inner states can be a trap if we cling to them. And the third level is even more refined.
Yes, formless becoming, arupa bhava. This relates to very high meditative states, like experiencing infinite space or infinite consciousness. Extremely subtle. But the core point across all 3 is this. Even though more skillful actions, better kamma, might lead to these more refined, seemingly happier states of becoming, all of them are constructed, all are impermanent, and all require a constant effort to maintain. And that inherent need for upkeep, that's inherently stressful.
Okay, that makes sense. No matter how nice the becoming feels, it's still built on shaky ground. And you mentioned these are fueled by 4 kinds of clinging. This sounds like where we really get stuck.
Yes, craving leads to clinging. The first is sensuality clinging, which we touched on. It's that direct addiction to sensual thoughts, plans, desires. The texts use this really stark image. A jackal with mange, constantly itching, finding no relief anywhere, just miserable. That's the mind chewed up by sensual thoughts, never truly at peace, always scratching an itch that can't be satisfied.
Oof. Yeah, that's a powerful image. It makes you think about those mental itches we keep scratching, obsessing over things, without realizing how much suffering it causes, how it blocks out anything else. Okay, so that's sensuality clinging. What's number 2?
Second is clinging to views. This means getting attached to our fixed beliefs about reality. Is the universe eternal? Is it finite? Are the self and body the same thing, different? What happens after death? The Buddha basically said, look, these big philosophical positions, they're mental constructions, too. They arise based on conditions. They're fabricated, and because they're fabricated, they're inherently unstable and stressful to cling to. He pointed out how pointless debates about the cosmos were, and crucially, he refuted views like everything is determined by past kamma or everything is random, because those views kill your motivation to act skillfully now. If you think your actions don't matter, why bother trying?
Right, that takes away all agency, doesn't it?
No.
If it's all fixed or all random, there's no point in trying to cultivate good qualities or avoid harm. Makes sense. What's the third clinging?
Number 3 is clinging to habits and practices, silavata. This is about getting attached to rituals, routines, or specific ways of behaving, even spiritual ones, for the wrong reasons. There's a story about an ascetic who practiced acting like a dog, eating off the ground, barking, the whole deal. He believed this practice itself, combined with his view about its reward, would lead to a heavenly rebirth. But the Buddha said, no, based on that action and wrong view, he's more likely to be reborn as, well, a dog, or worse. Another example is an actor who brings joy to others, but if he clings to that role and its effects, he might be reborn among laughing divas. Still a form of becoming, still temporary, not liberation. It shows how even seemingly good practices become traps if you cling to the performance or the identity around them.
Wow, so even our cherished routines or spiritual disciplines can become a problem if we're attached to the form rather than the substance, or we build an identity around being the person who meditates this way or follows these rules. Okay, what's the last one?
The fourth is clinging to self-doctrines. Basically, any way you try to define a permanent, controlling self. Whether you say, I am my body, I am my feelings, I am my thoughts, or even, I possess these things. The Buddha argues all these definitions need to stress because the things we identify with are inherently uncontrollable and impermanent. He even called the idea of a cosmic self identifying with the whole universe a fool's teaching. Why? Because you obviously don't control the whole universe. The whole point of identifying something as self is usually to feel you have some control over it for your happiness. So the teaching is, let go of what isn't really yours. Like, you wouldn't claim the leaves and twigs in a forest belong to you. Don't claim these changing physical and mental events as a permanent self. They arise and pass away according to conditions.
Okay, that is a really thorough breakdown of how we keep building these stressful identities and worlds through clinging. It feels kind of overwhelming, actually.
Yeah.
So if becoming is the issue and even wanting non-becoming is part of the trap, how on earth do you actually get out? It still feels like that central paradox.
It does, yeah. And the solution is, well, equally paradoxical, but deeply strategic. You actually use a specific kind of becoming to end all becoming. The goal is to cultivate dispassion, a lack of feeding for all these processes. For kamma, for clinging, for craving itself.
Okay, use becoming to end becoming. Like using a thorn to remove a thorn, maybe?
That's a classic analogy for it, yes. And the foundation for doing this skillfully is concentration, jhāna, developing mental stability and focus. This steady mind allows you to see these processes clearly as they have come to be without getting constantly swept away by them. The texts compare it to a skilled bath attendant mixing water with bath powder. They know just how to work with the materials. Concentration gives you that hands-on skill with your own mind.
Right, you need that stability to even observe what's happening clearly. But here's the bit that really bends my mind. You said even desire has a role. We've spent all this time talking about how craving and desire fuel becoming. How can desire possibly be helpful here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's about strategic desire. It's not just any desire. You intentionally cultivate desire for the goal, the end of all this becoming, the end of stress. And you cultivate desire to abandon unskillful mind states and develop skillful ones like concentration, kindness, wisdom. So you're harnessing the energy of desire, redirecting it. You use the desire for the path to undermine and eventually extinguish the desires that lead to more suffering, more becoming. It tames the beast by putting it to work.
Ah, okay. That makes so much more sense. It's channeling that energy purposefully. It's not about being desireless from the start, but about having the right desire, the desire for liberation. And this ties into right view, doesn't it? I remember the raft analogy being really key here.
Absolutely key. The raft analogy is brilliant. It says, look, even the highest, purest view, like the understanding of the path itself, is just a tool. It's a raft you build to cross a dangerous river, the river of suffering. Once you get to the other shore, Nibbāna, you don't strap the raft to your back and carry it around, right? You leave it behind. It shows that even the path itself, the skillful means, are ultimately to be let go of. You don't cling even to the tools that got you there.
That's profound. The path eats itself, in a way. So what are the specific tools, the perceptions we cultivate to develop this dispassion, to see things clearly enough to let go? You mentioned 3.
Yes, 3 core perceptions you actively developed. They aren't just abstract truths. They're ways of seeing everything. First is inconstancy, Annika. Really seeing, moment by moment, how everything forms, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, consciousness is constantly changing, arising, and passing away. Nothing solid, nothing permanent to grasp.
Just observing that relentless flux, yeah.
Second is the perception of stress. Duke. This comes from seeing that inconstancy. Realizing that maintaining any state of becoming, no matter how pleasant, requires constant effort, constant shoring up against change. And that effort, that inherent instability, is stressful. It leads you to ask, honestly, is this constant building and maintaining really worth the inherent stress?
A very pointed question. And the third perception.
Not self, Anata. This directly dismantles that clinging to self doctrines we talked about. It's seeing that these changing phenomena are not me, not mine, not some permanent self. And crucially, this perception isn't just applied to everyday thoughts and feelings, it's also applied strategically even to the initial experience of the deathless, the unfabricated element. Why? To prevent you from latching on to that and creating a new, super subtle, formless becoming, thinking, I have attained the permanent. It ensures all clinging is abandoned.
Okay, so these three perceptions really cut through the whole structure of becoming and clinging, which leads finally to the ultimate goal, unbinding, Nibbāna. What does that actually entail?
Right. Unbinding is the complete cessation of suffering, going beyond all becoming. The texts talk about it in two phases, you could say. First, there's unbinding with fuel remaining. This is the state of the arahant, the fully awakened person. While they're still alive, they still have their body, their senses are working, but there's no more passion, aversion, or delusion reacting to sense contact. The seed of consciousness is still there, but it's been deprived of the water of craving. It can't sprout into future becoming, future suffering.
Okay, so the potential for suffering is gone, even while life continues. And then the second phase.
That's unbinding with no fuel remaining. This is what happens when the arahant's physical life ends. The body and senses cease, they grow cold, all becoming stops completely. Now the seed is deprived of both water and earth, the physical basis. There's absolutely no possibility of any future state of existence, any further becoming, total cessation.
Total cessation, it sounds so final. But then there's this really enigmatic description, consciousness without surface. That sounds, well, hard to grasp. How is it different from just having a very peaceful, clear mind, like in those high meditation states?
It's a really important distinction, and yeah, it is subtle. Consciousness without surface is absolutely not the same as the radiant mind described elsewhere. The radiant mind is a very pure, bright state of becoming something you develop, a skillful state, but still conditioned, still ultimately something to let go of. Consciousness without surface, though, that describes the state of cessation itself, Nibbāna. It's described as having no location, no object, no support. It's unmanifest, infinite, not landing anywhere. Think of a light beam that doesn't hit anything, it can't be seen, can't be located, it's untraceable. Even Mara, the personification of temptation and delusion, is said to be unable to find the consciousness of one who is fully unbound. There's no there for it to land.
Wow, so it's not a place you go or even a state you achieve in the conventional sense, because that would imply location boundaries, another form of becoming.
Yeah.
It's the end of all that. So how does the awakened person, the arahant, relate to the world then? Before that final unbinding, what's their mode of being?
They are described as such a tathagata. It means they are simply such as they are, unaffected by the arising and passing of phenomena through the senses. There's no controller inside trying to manage things, no self being impacted. It's effortless, beyond notions of control, beyond self and not self. It's described as being everywhere released, completely unbound from any potential where, any potential location or condition for becoming to take root. Stress simply has no ground left on which to stand.
So the Four Noble Truths have been fully realized, the work is done. That's the ultimate freedom, the real end of the line for stress and suffering.
Exactly. That direct knowledge and vision of things as they have come to be, seeing impermanence, stress, not self, and understanding dependent origination, that's what brings about full awakening. The whole cycle is broken because the causes have been seen through and abandoned.
What an incredible arc. We've gone from that everyday feeling of needing to become something, explored how that drive itself creates stress through clinging, navigated the strategic path using concentration and insight, and arrived at this profound state of unbinding, of consciousness without surface. It really drives home that this isn't just, dusty old philosophy. It's a radical framework for looking at our own lives, our relentless striving, our search for happiness and purpose, and questioning the very foundations of it.
It really is. It offers a completely different perspective on what real freedom could look like, something beyond just achieving the next goal or refining the current identity, but actually stepping out of that whole game of becoming altogether.
And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really potent question to reflect on. If the texts say all becoming, even for just a moment, the extent of a finger snap, involves stress, what tiny, perhaps unconscious ways are you constantly trying to become something in your mind right now? What identities are you shoring up? What desires are you feeding? And what might it actually feel like truly to just let those processes run dry?